So Amazon has recently announced that they have finished filming The Wheel of Time Season 2. And the question I want to pose is, can The Wheel of Time Season 2 be good? I try not to be pessimistic in life, I try to be optimistic, I try to look for the silver lining in things, but at the end of the day, when it comes to The Wheel of Time, I just don't trust the showrunner. Rafe Judkins, to me, just isn't doing a good job with Wheel of Time. Season 1 is a terrible season of television, not just from a storytelling perspective, but from a filmmaking perspective as well. It's also an abysmal adaptation of these beloved books, because I have now read the first 3 books, and I thoroughly enjoyed the world Robert Jordan has built for The Wheel of Time. But you look at season 1 of The Wheel of Time, and there's barely any world building, any lore building. The characters are all unlikable and annoying. Not to mention the fact the show just doesn't focus on Rand al'Thor, who is the main character and the Dragon Reborn. Those first 2 books are heavily written from Rand's perspective, and watching season 1 and how little Rand is in season 1, it's absolutely shocking. It's baffling. That's like if you're making a Harry Potter TV show and you don't focus on Harry Potter, you focus on like Neville and Luna and Ginny and Hermione and Ron and Dumbledore, and you just neglect Harry Potter. Like, that would be awful. That would be stupid. Why would you do that? There are multiple failings of The Wheel of Time Season 1, and I've addressed it in my review, but I do actually want to go back and revisit Season 1 and look at it now from the perspective of someone who has read the first few books. Because for all I know, there might be little hints and Easter eggs that I might appreciate on a second time round, although I have rewatched some of the show after I finished the first book, basically revisiting those last few episodes. And they are terrible. They are so bad. Like, reading the end to Eye of the Worlds and seeing how cool and awesome Rand is, and then you get to the way the show portrays the ending to Eye of the World, and it's awful. Rand barely does anything. He just stands around and points the Sangreal at Balsamon, and that's it. No, it's a Shamael. It's not even a Balsamon in the show. It's just... I think that's one of my biggest pet peeves with Wheel of Time Season 1, is just that they don't let Rand do cool things. He has a sword, and he barely uses the sword for combat. I think the most Rand ever does with the Heronmark sword in the show is get it stolen from him by that dark friend in the village, and then Lan beats him up when they all reunite in Tarvalon. One of the greatest parts of epic fantasy is the fact that they tend to rely on sword combat, because sword combat is more strategic and more exciting to write about than regular gun combat, because whilst there is a place for gun combat, it's just more exciting when you have, 2 people face to face with swords. There is a tactical element to the combat, there is a thrill and excitement to it, you have people running around, jumping, leaping all over the place. It's fun stuff to read and see, but the Wheel of Time show refuses to do any of that. Now, getting onto some of the plot details we know about Wheel of Time Season 2, it's being reported that Season 2 is actually an amalgamation of Book 2, The Great Hunt, and Book 3, The Dragon Reborn. And the interesting thing is that on paper, I can kind of see why they're condensing these 2 books down into one, because plot-wise, they are very similar. Both books split off the main characters into their own little separate factions. You have Egwene, Elaine, and Nynaeve doing their whole business. You have Mat and Rand and Perrin in the Great Hunt going off for the hunt for the Horn. But then in the Dragon Reborn, Rand is sort of separated from the group, and it's Perrin and Moraine and Lan chasing after Rand. And then, of course, in the Dragon Reborn, Mat has his own little subplot. But at the end of the day, plot-wise, they all meet at the big climactic place where there is a big battle where Rand fights Balsamon in both books. And so, on paper, I can kind of see this working. It's just that I don't trust the writing team. Because in my mind, Season 2 should just be The Great Hunt, and Season 3 should just be The Dragon Reborn, just because with The Great Hunt, it's written primarily through Rand's perspective. You need the bickering between Mat and Perrin and Rand, and the idea that Rand is trying to separate himself from the group, and Rand doesn't even successfully do that until the 3rd book. But in Season 1, Rand leaves the group, so already there it's a little bit muddy. But you kind of need to do The Great Hunt because there is so many great character moments between Rand and the others he meets along the way. The character work done between Rand and Tom Merrilin in Book 2 is really good, and you kind of need it to set up Tom Merrilin's depressive rut in Book 3. I mean, you can kind of skip to Tom Merrilin's depressive rut in Season 2 if they were just going to go straight to Mat runs into Tom Merrilin in a bar, but you kind of need it because there's just a lot more depth and richness to the characters if you adapt the Great Hunt first and then you do the Dragon Reborn. And then, of course, the thing that has me worried is that they're probably going to cut my favorite sequence in the Wheel of Time book so far, which is the Portal Stone sequence in book 2. A flicker, 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 flicker. I win again, lose therein. That sequence where Matt, Rand, and Perrin are in the Portal Stones and they're seeing different versions of their lives flash before their eyes, and then they escape. And then Matt turns to Rand and he has this like terrified look on his face, and he turns to Rand and he says, "I will never betray you." That to me is one of my favorite moments. The way Robert Jordan writes that entire sequence is beautiful. And I'm very scared they're going to cut that from the show, because one of the biggest problems of season 1 of The Wheel of Time is that Matt doesn't go with the rest of the group to Fal Dara, because in the show Matt stays in Tar Valon, and that's because Barney Harris left filming halfway through and didn't return, and so they didn't really have much of a clear way to end Matt's arc in season 1. And they do a very dumb thing where they almost could have gotten away with having Matt go back to Tar Valon possessed by the dagger, because then what they could have done is open season 2 with a new actor playing Matt and just have Matt being cured of the dagger in Tar Valon. But no, the show just decides to be absolutely stupid, and the writers have Moraine set the red Aja on Matt, and it makes no sense. Why would you do that? You had a very clear out of, okay, we don't have Barney Harris, let's just have Matt go back to the White Tower, and we can simplify his character arc a little bit, and have him cured of the dagger for season 2. But no, Moraine sets the red... Why? Why? They had an easy way out of the Barney Harris controversy, and they didn't take... So stupid. And another problem I can see with them condensing the 2 book plots together is that I don't know how much Rand you're going to get, because obviously the Great Hunt is very focused on Rand, and the Dragon Reborn isn't very focused on Rand. And the thing that's annoying me about the Wheel of Time show is that it doesn't focus enough on Rand, and Rand is the main character of the show. That was something too. Looking at the behind-the-scenes featurettes of Wheel of Time Season 1, they barely mention Yostra Stradowski as Rand. I think they don't even reference him at all. I could be mistaken, but they don't mention him at all, and I'm like, how do you not mention the main character of the books as the main character of just... What? Because at this moment in time, Rand in the show is pretty boring and pretty bland, despite the fact that they probably have the perfect actor to play him. Yostra Stradowski is just the perfect image of Rand, and they just don't do anything with him. And I'm very scared that in season 2, they're going to do the same thing and they're not going to focus on Rand. Especially since Rand left the group at the end of season 1, and so I don't know how much of Rand is going to be in season 2. I mean, I could be wrong. For all I know, Perrin, because I'm assuming Matt isn't going to go on the hunt for the Horn because he's all the way in Tar Valon. But I imagine that Perrin is going to eventually run into Rand along the way, and then Rand is forced to be with Perrin and they hunt for the Horn of Valir. That could work. I can see it all culminating in a big fight between Rand and Baalzamon. I'm guessing they're going to do the whole Stone of Tears subplot and Rand claiming Kalandor. Though one thing I am going to be curious about is how they're going to butcher the design of Kalandor, just because in season 1, they butchered the design of the Heronmark sword. You look at the drawings of the Heronmark sword from the book, and it looks gorgeous. It's sort of almost like a scimitar. It's a really unique and interesting and beautiful design. And they butchered it by turning it into a very cheap-looking katana. And then you look at the design of Kalandor from the Wheel of Time book covers, and it's a very beautiful and interesting sword. It's made of crystal, or at least it looks like it's made of crystal. It has very unique curves and edges, and it's a very gorgeous-looking thing. But then, judging by the quality of Season 1 and the production design of certain elements of Season 1, I don't think they're going to do Kalandor justice. Like, the sword that isn't a sword, it's probably just going to look like a generic sword. Or do you know what? Maybe they won't even bother to adapt Kalandor. They'll just be like, oh, Kalandor, what? We'll just make the Heronmark sword the sword that isn't a sword. I don't know, they could do something stupid like that. My only hope for the Wheel of Time Season 2 is they bring back But My Son guy. I don't know how. Maybe he just comes back from the dead. Maybe he's one of those bodies that bows to Rand in one of the visions in Book 3. I don't know, that could actually be quite funny, like someone is seeing Rand through the dream world, and Rand's sort of just there, and you have the dead body of But My Son bowing towards him, like, that could be ridiculously stupid and funny. I don't know. But then also, they need to do the moment where Matt blows the Horn of Valir, so I don't know. On paper, I can see this working. The amalgamation of Book 2 and 3 could work. It's just that I don't trust the writing team, specifically Rafe Judkins, because the comment he made about the Wheel of Time fandom rejecting the idea that they'd made Moraine a lesbian couple and the diversity and all that, The comment he made, I feel, was very immature. He basically went to Twitter and said, oh, you don't like the fact that we're including diversity into our cast? Well, that's fine. We'll just keep doing it. We'll make Perrin gay. We'll make Lan trans or something. Like, to me, that was a very immature response. Instead of being like, people aren't enjoying our show, they don't like the changes we're making, we'll stick to some of the changes because I still feel like Moraine and Swan being a couple is okay for now because I haven't gotten so deep into the books yet to where I'm attached to their friendship as much. But instead of being mature and being like, we understand that you're upset, but this is the story we're trying to tell, and they tell it well, they're not doing that. They're just being immature, just being like, we're gonna make this person gay, we're gonna make this person black, we're gonna make this person Asian. That's not the right way to do it. That's a very, very immature thing to say. Now, granted, I'm not saying that there aren't people that are unjustifiably attacking the cast because of their bigotry or misogyny. I'm not saying that, but saying that the majority of the Wheel of Time fandom feel like that is just not the right way to go. Because realistically, what the Wheel of Time fandom is looking for is just a good adaptation of the books, and Season 1 is a horrible adaptation of the books. And look, I don't have a problem with the diversity casting the Wheel of Time Season 1. I didn't mind it. I didn't care, to be honest. Aside from the fact that they made Rand distinctly look Aiel, I was happy with the casting. I was fine with it. And as of right now, I'm happy with the casting of Aviendha in Season 2. Ayula Smart, who I know from Killing Eve, is a good actor, and I think can probably play Aviendha quite well. Granted, I don't have too much experience with Aviendha as a character yet because I've only just read book 3, but from what I've been told, she is a really cool character. But on the other hand, I can understand some of the complaints some Wheel of Time fans have with the casting of her, just because in the books, the Aiel are described to be very distinctly pale with red hair. And granted, Ayla Smart has red hair, but she is not pale. And I know people like Shad from Shadiversity and the Night's Watch gang, they aren't a fan of it because Shad is a purist. Shad is like, I've read these books and this is how I distinctly imagine this person. And so I can understand that. But to me, the casting of Ayla Smart, to me, it doesn't affect me. I think hopefully she does a good job. But a casting that I will say that does concern me is that apparently they've cast Katie Leung, who you'll probably know as Cho Chang from the Harry Potter films. They cast her not as a sort of prevalent and important character. They cast her as this random sister from the Brown Aja, who, similar to the character of Steppen in Wheel of Time Season 1, is mentioned in maybe like a line or two in one of the later books, and that's kind of it. And that in itself has me very worried that they're just going to bring in Katie Leung to play this random brown sister to do another stupid subplot where, you know, maybe she, like, becomes friends with Egwene and then, like, Katie Leung kills herself or something. I don't know, because I'm just very concerned that they're not actually going to be telling the plot of the books. They're just going to be telling these random stories of this random brown sister who's going to, like, die or something. It's just going to be very pointless. And that's what I don't want. I don't want Wheel of Time Season 2 to become unfocused and not telling the plot of the books, because this is an adaptation of the books. People come here to see the story that they've read be put onto the screen. And if they're not going to be telling these stories, they're just going to be making up random stuff, you might as well not be making a Wheel of Time show. And look, on the one hand, I want to be optimistic. I want to give people second chances. I want people to give themselves a chance to redeem themselves. But I am also very concerned because I don't trust Rafe Judkins as a showrunner. I found his comments about Season 1 to be very immature, but also, he's not the best writer. I saw Uncharted, the Tom Holland film, and it's fine, but there's a lot of stupid things in Uncharted. Like, why is there a Papa John's on top of, like, this ancient ruin? And then why is there, like, a club that leads into this ancient ruin? Also, the way they handled Season 1 of The Wheel of Time was just terrible. It was an awful adaptation of Eye of the World. They're not even focusing on Rand al'Thor being our main character. Like, why would... that to me is, like, the most baffling decision they've made. Like, why would you do that? There's also just a lot of stupid changes they made in Season 1, like giving Perrin a wife, and that weird love triangle between Egwene, Perrin, and Rand. Not to mention the fact that most of the male characters in Season 1 are pretty incompetent. Like, Rand has a sword, and that dark friend girl, like, confronts him, and he doesn't, like, use his sword properly. He kind of just, like, runs away, and it's like, you have a sword. I don't know, I don't know if Wheel of Time Season 2 can be good. I'm going to be holding judgment for a trailer once I see some footage, and if it's the same old thing, I'll be like, oh no, it's going to be a dumpster fire. But even then, I will still be holding out for the actual episodes and sit down and watch it, because for all I know, I will enjoy it. I'll sit down and be like, that's a good episode. That was decent. Oh no, that was pretty crap. Oh, but this episode was pretty good. I like this. I'm not going into season 2 wanting to hate it, but I'm not going into season 2 with much hope just because I don't trust the creative team. But my question to you is, do you guys have any hope for Wheel of Time season 2? I mean, I'm gonna guess that your answer is going to be no. But who knows? Maybe there is some glimmer of hope. Maybe they've learnt their lesson. Maybe Wheel of Time season 2 is going to be very good. I don't know. It probably won't be, but it could be. But those are just my thoughts on the current status of the Wheel of Time Season 2. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Like, subscribe, follow me on social media, all that good stuff. And until we meet again, I'll see you guys next time.